Welcome to the Bi-vocational Ministry channel. Today we're going to be doing a review of a Bible that I have been using for a couple years, the Mev Bible. We're going to be looking at a couple different formats and the translation itself. Enjoy. I'm a pastor, and I want to talk to you about the Mev, give you a little bit of a review of how I've experienced it. I'm going to be showing you three versions or three formats: the giant print, the large print personal size, and then the thin line, and kind of give you some reviews about that. Now, a couple things I like about the Mev is that I'm a Textus Receptus Masoretic text guy. I believe that is the proper text for the church. I believe that is the text that God has used over the centuries and that God has given to the church, and we have received it. Now, I'm not saying that from ignorance. I'm not saying that just because that's what I've been told. I've done the research. I've looked at New Testament textual criticism. I've studied the methods on how they come up to it. I actually went from a critical text position to a majority text, Byzantine majority, to a Textus Receptus position over the last few years. And always was praying that God would eventually bring the Textus Receptus into modern vernacular. Some people's like, well, you have the New King James. We do have the New King James, and it is a blessing. And I think New King James played a significant role. And I also believe the Mev is playing a significant role in bringing that Textus Receptus, what I've considered the proper text for the church, into the 21st century. And so, just want to give kudos to the translators who translated this Bible. That we now have a modern vernacular Textus Receptus Bible that is accurate and yet clear and readable for our churches and members. I'm a pastor. And them growing in their faith means a lot to me. My son just received the Lord. I bought him an Mev thinline to start reading and memorizing and studying. And I just love that when he reads it, it's a clear translation. That is one thing that I loved about the Holman Christian when I was first really digging into the scriptures. The first Bible I actually read through was the Holman Christian Standard Bible. Made life decisions on that translation. God spoke to me through that translation. And it was the exact Bible I needed at that time in my life. And I moved on to the New King James as my position on textual changed. But as for the use of that Bible, it was awesome. And so the question is do we have that now today in a Textus Receptus format? Just as clear, just as accurate, but based off better manuscripts, better texts? Well, I believe the answer is yes. I believe absolutely do we have that we have that. And so what I found out about the Mev, and I bought a copy. I've owned a copy of the thin line for about 3 years. I didn't read through it initially. I just kind of poked through it. I used it a little bit in my teaching. Kind of just had it. Like I said, even at a young age, I used the New King James for well over 10 years, and I was had a little trouble switching. And I'd gotten used to the language of the New King James, even though it wasn't necessarily in the modern vernacular. It was something I had really come to appreciate, the literalness of it and the cadence of it. But with the Mev, I was hesitant at first, but the more I've used it, the more I've used it in ministry. Just used it yesterday in marriage counseling, and in my teaching, we're doing a survey of the New Testament. I'll probably end up doing a survey of the Old Testament soon through it. I love the clarity. When you read through the Mev, you're buying a translation that is accurate to the manuscripts, to the Textus Receptus and the Masoretic, yet clear, and that really means a lot to me as a pastor. I want my congregation to grow, and I want them to grow, and I want them to, when they read their Bibles, that they would be very clear about what it's saying and understand it. I'm not looking for a Bible for someone just to carry to church. I'm looking for a Bible that I can put in someone's hand that they can go home and read, and I can trust that they're reading an accurate translation. And as for those of us who are not King James only, do I believe King James played a role? Yeah, I believe the King James played a role in bringing the received text into the next couple hundred years, into the 16, 17, and 18, and 1900s. I believe it played a significant role in that. God used it in great ways. It was a blessed, I believe God blessed it. But as I felt like the New King James was bringing that up into a more modern vernacular, I believe the MEV is doing that even more so into the 21st century. I love it that if I'm sitting with someone who reads an ESV, that we can be on the same page technically, except for the manuscript issue, because the Bibles read very similar. They're both clear. They're both accurate. When someone's reading a New American Standard, when someone's reading the New King James, or even King James, the Bible is it's accurate enough that it's not saying something different. It's not someone's opinion, or it's not a full dynamic. It's accurate, but yet at the same time, it's dynamic enough that people can grow from it. And where I felt like the New King James was very strong in its literalness, sometimes its literalness made it a little bit hard to understand, and some of the language it used and brought over from the King James. And but the MEV, I mean, it kind of handles all that, and I've just been very impressed with it. So I'm gonna give you a review of these different Bibles. First one I have in front of me here is the giant print. I just got it a couple of days ago, still very new to me. So you can tell it's large. The leather, it's not real leather, but you probably couldn't even tell that. I mean, the quality of the bonded leather is so good that people probably think it's real leather. Because it's absolutely gorgeous. I just really enjoy it. There's the spine. It's about 1.5 inches thick, maybe not quite. It's quite large this way. The gilding is silver. It's like a dark silver. Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. I love the Bible. And for someone who can't buy very expensive Bible, $100, $200, $300, $400 Bibles, this is a great option. I can have a quality Bible. The spine is sewn, and for a price that I can afford, and that I can know my congregation can afford. So like I said, it's a giant print. Let me give you an example here. Okay, so there's the print. And one thing I also like about it is, if you notice, you could see that the print is very clear and very easy to read, and that means something to me. My Thomas Nelson New King James was very easy to read, very clear. I got the Holman publishing. I got a New King James published by Holman, and the translation, I mean, it's still a New King James, but there's some pages where the letters look like they were bold, and some letters they look like they're really thin. Some places just it was kind of out of place. The words were kind of scrunched together. I found underlining in it very difficult, and it's supposed to be the same format as what I had before Thomas Nelson. Not sure of all Holman Bibles like that. Don't judge a whole publisher based on one Bible that I just wasn't real pleased with. Now the leather on that Holman published New King James is beautiful. Just the text is a little bit difficult to use, and like I said, it's kind of uneven. There are places you felt like the printer had more ink or put more ink down, and other places just wasn't the most clearest thing. Still use it, still read it. But one thing I like about the MEV here is this is very clear, and this is something you're going to see in each of their Bibles. It's clear in the giant print, it's clear in the personal size, and it's clear in the thin line. They all have strengths. That is one good strength, that they're very clear and easy to read. They're easy on the eyes in that sense. The translation is also a good translation as well. This Bible, like I said, sewn, comes with a concordance in the back. Beautiful Bible if you're looking for one. I don't really carry this one around. Of course, I just bought it because it's so large, but it's great to preach from, and I like that. I mean, it sits right in my hand. It would be great to preach from. Also, I use it in marriage counseling. I could literally pull verses out and actually push it over to the couple I'm counseling, and they could read it together. It's big enough to read together, and I like that. Couples, I mean, I think it's awesome when couples can read together, and this Bible is actually big enough to push to two people and let them both read at the same time, and I like that. Or if I'm trying to show someone something, I can literally push it over like this and point to it and actually read from far enough distance, because it's giant print. Still sleek, still beautiful. My personal preference is I would rather have had a little smaller, like the personal size, a little thicker, but I like the print in here a little better than I like the personal size. But all in all, it's still a great Bible, and I thank God for it. To me, the MEV is an answer to prayer, to bring the Textus Receptus and Masoretic text into the 21st century, and I thank the Lord for it. And I'm talked to them today, found out that they still plan on moving forward with the translation. They're excited about. They're in it. As according to the guy I talked to at Charisma Media, he said we're in this for the long haul, and I love that, because it's nice to know that I'll be able to buy an MEV for years to come, and that my congregation will find them easily accessible. And though I appreciate the translation, I know many translations fall by the wayside if they don't sell enough. But I talked to Emmy, I talked to the people who publish at Passio, Charisma Media, and just really happy to hear what they had to say. Now, on that note, I'm a Baptist. I've been a Baptist for most of my life. And I've heard people say, well, you know, it has charismatic leanings. I don't think so. I have yet to read anything in here that is a leaning to a leaning charismatic. You can read beyond the text and say, well, that really means this, and that they're nitpicking. They're nitpicking. Don't get burdened if someone say it's a charismatic translation. Don't buy it. It's not a charismatic translation. The translation team came from multiple places. I've looked a lot of them up. They teach in schools, PhDs. Look like good, nice, strong believers. I haven't looked at all of them, so but all in all, I can judge the translation because of my use of the New King James and other translations throughout the years. I can kind of judge the translation, and all in all, I just don't see the charismatic leanings. Some say, well, it says speaking in tongues instead of speak in tongues. Come on, stop nitpicking. So, all in all, I wouldn't worry about it. I don't see any charismatic leanings. Now, with that said, I want the text. We can leave interpretation to the side. We can leave interpretation to the pastors who are reading it. But I don't see any blatant charismatic readings where they're trying to force a charismatic view on Scripture. I just don't see that it exists. And I think to make such a claim is a bit irresponsible. So if you're a charismatic and your publishing house publishes Bible from the Baptists, thank you. Thank you. From the Baptists, I say thank you. I use this Bible every day. Not this one particularly, but this version. And I thank the Lord for it. And so appreciate the transparency, appreciate the willingness to work with other denominations to come to a text that's not leaning. And as far as I could tell, I have not found anything of substance in regard to that argument. So there it is. There's, like I said, that's the giant print, big, beautiful Bible. A little big for me. The next one, and again, it's sewn. The binding is sewn, so that's nice. The next one I'll pull out here for you is the personal size. This is a personal size large print. Beautiful Bible, a little thicker, maybe a couple inches, maybe not quite a couple inches thick. But it's large print. Let me show you the inside real quick. Same translation. Blessing. Now, I've had this for a couple years. The reason it doesn't look good, this is the one I was preaching from on a regular basis. And I kept it in my office, and then on Sunday mornings I'd get it out and I would preach from it. And then I put it back in my office. It's not the one I carry. Still, the writing, I'll give you a New Testament. I like that the red lettering does not stick out like in your face, but it's there. I like that, again, the clarity of the print. The pages on both this one and that one are thick enough to where you don't have a whole lot of bleed through the page behind it, but yet thin enough that you're not carrying around such a bulky Bible or that it won't lay flat. Because, again, that one will lay flat. That one will lay flat. This one also includes a sewn binding, which I have, which I appreciate. Just shows that they're dedicated to quality. And in all honesty, I love this color. I wasn't much of a brown person. The first few Bibles I bought with black, with gold, or they were all black with gold, gilding. But this is a cherry brown, I think is what they call it. And I just, like I said, I saw it in the box, and it is a gorgeous, gorgeous color. I don't know how they came up with this, and I love the design with the Holy Bible in the front. So I just think it's gorgeous. Now the gilding is, I'm going to call it red brass. That's probably not what they call it. They probably call it like a red bronze. I was in orchestra, and I played a trombone that had silver, yellow brass, and red brass. And the bell was red brass, and it was gorgeous. And this was the color of the bell on the trombone, and it was a gorgeous trombone. Of course, it sounded great. Gorgeous trombone with the red brass. I see that they use a similar color on this, and I mean, to me, I think that's awesome. Makes this Bible second to none in beauty. I love the red brass gilding. I love the cherry brown. I just love the way this Bible looks. It's, to me, this is about the size that I would want to, like I said, to preach from it as a normal Bible, and it might be the one I switch to now that I got the giant print. Both the giant print and this one, they both come with concordances in the back, which is nice, and I just can't say enough good about it. In regard to the translation, I think I've said this before, I'll say it again, it's clear, it's understandable, but it's accurate. And I love that if I'm talking to someone with an ESV, if I'm talking to someone who reads New American Standard or New King James, that I'm speaking the same language. I'm talking in the modern vernacular, and I love my King James, and I use my King James. But as for looking for a Bible for new believers or even current believers who want a clear understanding of what it's saying, the MEV is the perfect fit. I mean, it is right there where I would want it to be. I don't know if you can see it, but back here I have, you see all the way up top we have King James, the New King James, and then on the bottom we have MEV, because we're a Texas Receptus Masoretic Text Church. And just really appreciate the translation. And again, this is a little thicker, a little smaller. Let me compare the sizes here for you. If I stand them up, put it right here. So the giant print is larger, both height and width, but it's thinner. Maybe you can see that. See that. Again, excellent translation. If you've never bought an MEV, or you've never looked into the textual issue, or you just believe the talking heads that talk about it, I would encourage you to look into it. It's not as clear cut as some of the modern textual critics make it. You know, they use a naturalistic philosophy of textual criticism, and they apply it to divine literature. And you have to ask yourself, is that really a good idea? They're using the same text criticism for Plato and other literature for the world, and then they apply it to a divine literature that was inspired by God. And you have to wonder, is that text critique supposed to be the same? And I would say no. And even if you do look at it, the modern text criticism is based off such a minority of controversial, obscure manuscripts that I don't trust them. And I wish some people would do a little more research into that. And I believe the Textus Receptus is the received text to the church. And what's so great about that is the new textual method that they're using is different than what they've used in the past, and their Bibles are about to change. And but you know what's so great about for those of us in this camp is the fact that we can have updated translations. You can always translate the TR in the modern vernacular. You can always translate the Masoretic text in the modern vernacular, but the text is the same. It was the same. It's been the same, and it'll be the same for the years to come. We don't have to wonder if what we're reading is legitimate. And what we know that what we're reading is legitimate, is the Word of God. And as long as it's translated accurately, we can have that in modern vernacular. And so and some people take that to the point where they use King James and they say, well, my text will never change, not even my English one. And I don't really hold to that position. I do believe in it being the modern vernacular. I just believe that the manuscripts have to be right. And as long as there's not like an agenda, as far as I can tell with the MEV, I cannot find one, and if there is one, I believe they might be nitpicking and maybe looking beyond the text, and you want to avoid that. Now, I've owned this one for about 3 years. This is the thin line. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick. I got to squish it. And the spine on this one, unlike the other two, on the personal size and giant print, which are sewn, this one is glued. But I have to tell you, I'm impressed. I used my Thomas Nelson New King James that fell apart with just a little over a year of regular use. And if you know me, I don't know if you can tell, I believe in putting Bibles to use. It's Holy Scripture, but it's a tool of God to use in our spiritual lives. I carry this one with me when I go on sabbaticals. I sometimes go out to the woods and I'll roll it and I'll put that in my pocket. See, it rolls up nice, and I'll put that in my pocket so that way when I get where I'm going, I can pull it out of my pocket. Comes out easy. If they could make it compact, that'd be kind of cool. I don't know how successful that'd be with the print, but this size works out well for me. And what I'm going to brag about this one is the fact that it's held up so well. I mean, I've put it to use. I mean, I take notes in my Bible. I underline in my Bible. I use it all the time. I'm constantly opening or reopening. I carry this one to meetings. I carry it to when we go on, if we go on vacation, if we go visit relatives. You never know when an opportunity might come up that you might be talking to someone about the gospel, and or talking to someone about good doctrine. And having this in hand is nice. I remember I went to visit a family, and a Jehovah's Witness was there. And I was able to pull this out and adequately defend the faith with the Jehovah's Witness right there. And I appreciate that it's that accurate. Yet it's put in a modern vernacular that it's very readable. I think I've said that over and over, and say it again, the Holman Christian of the critical text is the MEV of the Textus Receptus, even though the MEV is probably a little more literal in some places, but all in all clear. It's clear, easy, where you get the idea, you know what's being said, you understand what's being said, and it's a tremendous blessing. I love the format. Like I said with the other ones, see if I can find one where I didn't underline a whole lot. And because I love the format here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'll give you the first part of Job. Look at that text. See how easy that is to read? And I know that other Bibles probably do the same thing. I just know the one of the New King James I have now is not that clear. And one thing I've also appreciated about it is the format. You know how they indent the quotes and things like that. Well, the New King James doesn't always do that in the text. Personal preference, I love that. I love that they quote off when someone's saying something and they break it off into quotes and bring it into a format that I can actually understand and break it down. Where the New King James, and sometimes it'll do that, especially when referencing scripture quotations, but sometimes it won't. It'll be right in the text. A little hard for me to point out sometimes, and I've just noticed in this one it's a little more clear and easy. I guess maybe I'm being lazy, but it's a little more easy for me to understand, or easy for me to point out or pick out. And for a new believer, that I feel like that's just as important. My goal as a pastor is see my church grow in the faith, grow in the Word, grow in their spiritual lives. And I don't want to handle the Bible if, 1, I don't trust, 2, has an agenda, or 3, is so difficult to read that they're going to give up. And so the MEV passes all those tests. It's clear, it's accurate, and I believe that it's something that will bless their spiritual lives. And again, for this spine being glued, it has held up quite well. I mean, you can see this or not, but nothing's falling out except for my ribbon. Everything's stayed put, and I don't have to. And like I said, I carry this in the car, take it everywhere I go. Oftentimes, I'll fit in my pocket, backpack, whatever I have with me, my wife's purse. If I don't have anything else with me, it'll go in there. And again, I love it. I've bought one now for my son who just got saved. I got the journaling version for my wife, which she really likes a lot. And so we've switched our whole family over to this, and it's just a blessing. To kind of give you an example how they all stack up, literally, together. I don't know if you can see that in the view of the camera, but that's kind of how they said it, except the thin line is going to be a lot thinner than that when you buy it, but it'll thicken up. The translation, I like to say the translation, if you use it a lot, the translation will bloom. And that's kind of what the Bible will bloom, and I'm kind of seeing that here, and I'm loving that. And I love seeing when I walk someone, when I talk to people and stuff like that, use your Bibles. It's a tool to be used in your life. We do not have Bibles just to carry to church or to sit on a bookshelf. Bibles are meant to be used. And I'm sure Passio, who published the Bible, will not mind if you wear out a Bible and buy another one. I'm sure they will not mind that at all. For the height, the personal size is pretty close to the thin line in size, a little bigger, but of course a lot thicker. And the thin line is a lot smaller writing, but all in all, really great. The journaling Bible, I'll say this: the journaling Bible is the thin line, I believe, with the extra marginal notes. So the text is about the same size as the thin line, but it has the extra space for the journaling and stuff. I could be wrong about that, but I think so. So if you have not tried out the MEV, I encourage you to go out and buy one. Give it a shot, and I really think you'll be blessed by the translation. You'll grow from it spiritually. I've used it now for a few years, or a couple years more in depth, and really, really just have appreciated the translation, read through the translation, used the translation. It's a good reading translation. It's a useful translation in spiritual life and even in defense of the faith. And just like I said, really appreciated it. I've known men who are starting to switch over to this, and women, and they're being blessed too. So please take time to look at the MEV, and God bless.